frustrating day of delays for travellers between Durban and Gauteng. The N3 closed for much of the day due to a destructive protest. A summit descends into chaos as speakers try to debate the highly emotive issue of land ownership. This is eNews at 8 p.m. I'm Sally Burdett. Good evening. And we start with the latest news on the chaos caused overnight due to the protest action on the N3 near Mooi River. Now, the violence was apparently sparked by locals protesting over the employment of foreign nationals as truck drivers. Over 20 trucks were burned overnight and the highway had to be closed for many hours today. In a few moments, we'll be speaking to road officials to assess the situation this evening and tomorrow for travellers on that route. But first, our reporter Dasan Thathia was in Mooi River today as authorities scrambled to reopen the highway.
The N3 highway looked like a disaster area on Monday morning. On Sunday night, criminals targeted trucks passing through the Mooi River toll plaza. More than 30 were looted, while approximately 27 of those set alight. Although there's been no official word on the cause of the unrest, it's believed to be related to labour issues in the trucking sector. Recovery and repair teams have their hands full as they prepare to get the national road ready for traffic after the long weekend. By midday on Monday, the Johannesburg-bound route was partially reopened.
So it's essential to effect temporary repairs before putting traffic onto the roadway, and then later in time, after the long weekend, our repair crews can return to do more permanent repair work.
Over 50 people have been arrested, many of them from the surrounding area. But residents say they were not involved in the arson attack.
The time truck isha, slambile, we are hungry. So my ishi truck sizokuthathe. But not to say yithe sishisa truck.
Others are worried the image of Mooi River will be tainted.
Izolo nje sithole nje ukuphoxeka kakhulu nje ngalesenzo lesesenziwe driver bama truck ngoba manje kugcineni kuthiwa abantu base Mooi River. Kumanje nje asakwazi nanokuthi ke siphume ke endlini amaphoyisa angena door to door ahleze aseshela kona ke ukuthi afuna impahla.
It's the second time in a month trucks have been burnt here. Police are keeping an eye on the area to prevent any further flare-ups. Dasan Thathia, Mooi River in KwaZulu-Natal.
So, if you need to use that road later tonight or tomorrow, what can you expect? I'm joined on the line by Con Roo, spokesperson for the N3 toll concession. Good evening, Mr. Roo. Thank you so much for coming through to us this evening. Currently, what is the traffic like on the N3 at the moment? Are all lanes in both directions now open?
Good evening, Sally. Indeed, correct summation that Mooi River appeared like a disaster zone. It was unprecedented degree of destruction caused last night, and throughout the day today our repair crews as well as all emergency services have really worked hard, and I'm very pleased to say that both northbound and southbound are now fully opened and traffic is flowing normally at point in time.
There were huge delays today. Is it going to just be even more chaotic tomorrow? I mean, tomorrow's anyway always a busy day. Is it going to be worse, or will it be just a normal busy day?
Yes. Sally, we had a huge number of vehicles travelling down at the start of the long weekend. So we're expecting tomorrow to be exceptionally busy with traffic volumes, probably to the extent of 2,500 vehicles an hour returning towards Gauteng. In order to accommodate that, it was obviously absolutely imperative for us to have the road fully reopened today. And as I say, that is the situation as it prevails at the moment.
Now, in an earlier interview, you spoke about the road surface being damaged due to the arson. Are you confident that the quick repairs you have done will keep the road safe for tomorrow during the heavy traffic?
The priority was to ensure that the roads were sufficiently safe to reopen to traffic. Otherwise, we would not have been able to reopen them today. Our technical teams will be monitoring the situation very carefully, but we quietly confident that the road will hold up pending further permanent repairs, which will be necessary later in time.
Thank you so much. That was Conru, spokesperson for the N3 toll concession, telling us this evening all lanes going in both directions are now reopened. He has given us some contact details. You can check what's going on that route on Twitter at the following handle, at N3Route. That's at N3Route. There's also a helpline, 0800 63 4357, 0800 63 4357. In other news now, tempers flared, fists flew at a land summit held at Unisa today. There was a broad range of speakers lined up, but many of them were heckled and booed and didn't even get to finish their speeches. So what did the land summit achieve, and what does it say about the heightened emotions around the land issue in our country? Our reporter Michael Apple was there. He watched the chaos unfold. He joins us now. Good evening to you, Michael. Now, this was organised by Unisa, and it started off with Professor Boitumelo Senokwane slamming Section 25 of the Constitution. He said it was not written in good faith, drafted to protect white interests, challenging, thought-provoking stuff. So it was setting the scene for what would be a really robust and interesting debate. At what point did it descend into chaos? Did it sort of pretty much start from the get-go?
Yes, yeah, it started with sort of heightened tensions in the room. The speakers were chosen very carefully. These are people that are outspoken on the subject, so there was no guessing which way they were going to go. But unfortunately, the students that were in the hall there almost didn't allow speakers to get through their speeches at all. And even for some speakers where we know where they lie on the subject, it's still important to find out why. And several speakers were heckled to the point where they gave up. They were not adequately protected by the program director, which they continuously called for, and they eventually just sat down, and there was a hope that the Q&A session you'd be able to have a better interaction, but that degenerated into chaos as well, the first round of Q&As. So how much did the straight talk debate? It's important to mention this was supposed to be a debate.
Right.
How much did it actually achieve?
Well, let's listen to some of those views, which I think a lot of it was missed in all the chaos. There was a very interesting perspective as well from the Khoisan Liberation Mass Movement. Anthony Williams also calling for the Constitution to be changed. Let's take a listen to that.
Of this country, they sold this country out. They sold indigenous people out. We want our land back. We want our land back. They sold us out. Now let's just, and then I'm going to set the program director. We want the Constitution changed.
So, heightened emotion there. COPE leader Mosiuoa Lekota challenged the narrative, and this was an interesting one, and he got a lot of pushback of stolen land, which is a very interesting input. Let's listen to Mosiuoa Lekota.
We fought wars. Some people say our land was stolen. It is belittling us. In the East Coast, we fought 9 wars, uncompromising, defending our freedom. When the whites got into the Free State, there were battles galore. To this day, there is no British military general who reached the top of Tababusiu saying he's defeated Basotho. They defended. When AmaZulu defended and defeated the British at San Juan, they were defeating the biggest, most powerful army in the whole world. You can't say it was stolen. We fought.
Interestingly, because Mosiuoa Lekota, it's not the first time he's had pushback, he's had it in Parliament as well. Did he manage to finish his speech? How was he received?
Yeah, a lot of trouble for him working through his points. He did labour a lot on the history behind the land question, and he went back to 1652 and earlier, right. And that wasn't appreciated by the students that were in attendance. They didn't want a history lesson. I'm not entirely sure what they wanted, but he didn't really get to the nub of the issue, which was Section 25 of the Constitution and what COPE would like to see happening there. But it is clear that he is supporting the notion that there must be fair, just and equitable compensation for land and to do away with the narrative that whites have stolen the land, as you heard in that soundbite.
Let's take a closer look now at the moment where things got really quite heated. Let's take a little listen at this bite.
It is because of the slow pace of land reform since 1994 that the ANC in Nazareth resolved to expropriate land without compensation. The ANC has realized that a market-driven land reform process is not addressing the past social and racial imbalances.
All right, so that was Ronald Lamola, the hecklers. Let's take a listen to them. You know, it's a very emotive issue, so you can understand tempers flaring. But what does it say where, you know, by the end of the day, people hadn't been able to speak or finish their speeches? A lot of people had left. A lot of people had been thrown out of the venue. Ultimately, what does a summit like this achieve, and what does it say about the temperatures? Or is it just a small group of people who were causing chaos?
It was a small, relatively small group of people that were causing chaos, but sort of consistently throughout the day. And I think it could have been handled better by Unisa's staff that were on hand. And I think if their intent was to gauge the level of desperation, the level of anger, the level of frustration that is sort of embodied in South Africa at the moment, then it certainly achieved that. But were a lot of important questions around the land question answered? I don't believe so. It was a very... It showed a lot of political immaturity. People were not allowed to, even if you differed with the prevailing opinion of the students, those people were invited for a reason, to give you another opinion. Why on earth would you invite all the speakers that are going to say the exact same thing? And that is a problem that crept in. The people were not allowed to speak.
Michael Apple, thank you so much, giving us the details on a land summit that descended into chaos today. Still ahead, the defence wraps its case during Sandile Manswe's murder trial. We'll bring you the latest after the break. The defence has closed its case in the murder trial of Sandile Manswe. Manswe himself did not take the stand, and this could indicate his team believes the state has not made its case against him. Manswe is accused of killing his ex-girlfriend Karabo Mokoena last year. He's pleaded not guilty to 3 charges, including premeditated murder. Kailihle Komalo reports.
In a surprise move, Sandile Manswe's defence team opted not to call any witnesses to support his claim that his ex-girlfriend Karabo Mokoena took her own life. Judge Piet Johnson asked Manswe if he's aware he could be sentenced to life imprisonment if he's found guilty. His answer was yes. The state has tried to persuade the court that Manswe masterminded the gruesome killing. The state called its star witnesses last week. They refuted claims that Mokoena took her own life and agreed with the argument that Manswe was at the center of this brutal killing. Mokoena was last seen alive at the accused's home, and Manswe has admitted that he disposed of her body. Closing arguments in the case will now be made on Wednesday.
Our wish is that the accused should be given life sentence. That, we think it will send a clear message to the perpetrators, because as ANC Women's League, we are against the killing of women and children.
Mokoena's family has been attending the trial, but have not spoken to the media, except to say they are seeking closure following the tragedy. Kailihle Komalo, Johannesburg.
News from further afield now. Malawi's former president, Joyce Banda, says she's undisturbed by an outstanding warrant of arrest against her. She faces allegations of corruption, but she's told her supporters she's innocent. It's believed government officials siphoned off millions of dollars from the public purse. Banda returned home from a 4-year self-imposed exile over the weekend. The 68-year-old fled the country in 2014 when she lost power. Police have declined to say if she'll be arrested, as the arrest warrant issued last July remains valid. Recapping your top stories, a frustrating day of delays for travellers between Durban and Gauteng. The N3 has been closed for much of the day, but it is now open on both sides. After the break, we've got your weather, and then fresh air and freedom have cows in Sweden jumping for joy.
Welcome to the Weather Center. We had lots of sunshine throughout Monday over the western and southern parts of the country, thanks to the cloud-free skies you see on the latest satellite picture. But over the eastern areas, we had a thick layer of rain-bearing clouds extending from KwaZulu-Natal into Mpumalanga and some storm clouds across the high-veld areas. And it's going to stay fairly wet tonight for those parts of South Africa. And so we're going to start off Tuesday with a bit of rain for eastern KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga and Limpopo. Then as the day progresses, isolated thunderstorms are forecast for the central and eastern high-veld areas. In the western sections, we will see a lot of high-level clouds streaming through, and that's ahead of this cold front that is going to be heading towards our shores. So if you are in the Northern Cape this Tuesday, you can expect isolated afternoon thunderstorms for the easternmost parts of the province. It's going to be dry and warm to hot for the rest of the Northern Cape. In the Western Cape, we will see a thick layer of high-level cloud, giving us partly cloudy skies in most areas. Cape Town and Langaban both warming to around 28 degrees. Mostly clear skies are forecast for the Eastern Cape, where it's going to be warm to hot. Thunderstorms are possible, however, around Aliwal North and Matatiele. We are also going to see thunderstorms around Ladysmith and Newcastle in KwaZulu-Natal. A bit of rain for the eastern areas, partly cloudy, dry and warm around Durban. Thunderstorms are also forecast for the western areas of Mpumalanga. The rest of the province is going to be mostly cloudy with light rain in places. We are also going to see a bit of rain for eastern Limpopo, thunderstorms for the southwestern areas. Polokwane warming to around 23 degrees. The northwest should see isolated thunderstorms on Tuesday, with temperatures here lying mostly in the lower to mid-20s on Tuesday afternoon. We are going to see similar weather and temperatures across much of the Free State. Cooler, however, for Bethlehem and Harrismith, both peaking at just 19 degrees. Isolated to scattered thunderstorms are forecast in Gauteng, where temperatures in the lower to mid-20s are expected in the afternoon. And now looking ahead to your Wednesday, we are going to see thunderstorms across much of South Africa, rainy weather for Cape Town and George. Then on Thursday, mostly sunny skies are forecast for western South Africa, light rain along the east coast and thunderstorms over the east.
And finally, a marvelous story to make you smile. Cows grazing in the sun are a common sight here in South Africa, but spare a thought for cows who don't get to spend as much time outdoors. The cows in this story were hopping with excitement at their first taste of spring.
These cows in Sweden are jumping for joy, literally, after being kept indoors for several months during the long, dark winter. Hundreds of people gathered to watch the annual cow release at a farm in Stockholm. And children who attended the amusing event couldn't hide their utter excitement.
It's mostly for the children to experience this beautiful welcoming of the spring. To see that the animals are happy, we are happy. The darkness is disappearing and the spring is on its way.
And with the feeling of green fields under their hooves, it's safe to say these cows are living the cream.
Recapping your top stories. A frustrating day of delays for travellers between Durban and Gauteng. The N3 was closed for much of the day, but it has now reopened ahead of tomorrow's busy return from the holidays. A summit descends into chaos as speakers try to debate the highly emotive issue of land ownership. That's your news at 8. Have a good day tomorrow. Take care. Good night.